Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. Just a reminder, if you need to mute your computer, turn off your camera, just kind of wiggle your mouse over Teams, and you should see a camera icon. If you click it and there's a slash through it, that means your camera's off. Same for the mute. We are recording this so that folks can watch it later if they couldn't join us live, just to let you know. And if you have questions, please just put them in the chat. Anytime they come up, we're happy to answer them. Our third presenter isn't here yet. He is finishing a presentation for our campus president, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started without him because his part is at the end anyway. So to introduce your presenters, I am Allegra Davis Hanna. I teach English for the TCC Connect campus, and I'm the department chair for Humanities.
And hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Russell, and I teach biology for Connect Campus, and I'm excited to be here today.
And our third presenter will be Austin Haynes. He's our e-learning instructional designer, and he's our graphic designer in e-learning, and he has been working with faculty all semester long to make videos, to upload videos, and to make videos accessible to students. So he has a lot of lessons learned, both good and bad, from seeing hundreds of instructor videos this semester as he's worked to help folks teach online. So we did a session over the summer about using videos in online classes, and we're going to give you a link to this presentation so you can watch all of our videos and access all of the links that you see. And I'll, in fact, give you a link to our presentation in the chat right now. So in our previous presentation, we talked about introduction videos and course walkthroughs, different kinds of lecture videos, using the screen recording functionality in PowerPoint to make videos, and that is far and away the most popular kind of video that faculty have been making. And we did some how-to demonstration videos and academic conversations. So if you want to go back, you can watch the recording of that presentation on YouTube. There's a YouTube link here, or if you just want to look at our slides, there's a link there as well. And if you have technical questions about how to make videos, so if you have questions about how to use PowerPoint or Snagit or Camtasia, or if you have questions about what you need in terms of a phone app or a particular microphone, if you want advice on buying a headset, all of those questions you can ask us in the chat and we will answer at the end. And if we don't have the technical expertise to answer the question, we will follow up with you later and get that information for you from our instructional design team. In terms of uploading video right now, we are recommending using YouTube. And of course, when we transition to the new LMS, there's a video platform built into that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about videos that serve different kinds of functions in online course spaces. So there are videos that humanize the instructor, and students can kind of humanize each other. There are videos that pace instruction, make connections, videos that have active engagement. And then at the end, Austin's going to talk about sequencing content so that videos deepen understanding and really have a clear purpose for students. And I think I'm first. Yes. So first, we're going to talk about videos that humanize the online instruction experience. Really, every video that you make for your students should be an opportunity to be nice. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a pushover. It has nothing to do with course policies. It's really about making sure students know that you're an approachable person who cares about their success. And so welcome students to the course, to the information, to the lesson. Invite them to ask you all of the questions they have. We want to make sure that students know it's okay to reach out to us when they have questions. It's a little harder obstacle for students to email or call us when they don't see us in person on a regular basis. So my advice for humanizing instruction is to be yourself. If you're kind of silly and goofy, if you're introverted, however, whatever you're like, be yourself, and as long as you're nice. Use humor. Make appropriate jokes. Certainly you can make fun of yourself. Don't try to use jokes in videos if your jokes don't work in real life. If you're not successful at being funny in the real world, it probably won't work on video. Be conversational but appropriate, and be approachable no matter what. So you never want to make a video that comes across to students as scolding or as admonishment. You really want to make it a chance for students to see that you're approachable. So I have some examples of different ways that you can use that. It's a lot of my face. I'm not going to play all these videos for you necessarily, but I don't actually think I clicked share system audio, so I might need to. All right. So I have a welcome video, and Natalie, tell me if you can hear this or not.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to our class.
Yep.
I'm Laker Davis Hannah, and I'm your instructor for. So this is a slideshow of pictures, and I just tell students like where I went to college and why I'm a teacher, and it has little, pictures of me so that they get to know me as a person. And that's one way that I made a humanizing video. I made that video just using pictures that I had because I'm a little bit awkward on camera, and I edited it in Camtasia, which is something that you can get a license to if you want it. We have that resource. This is one I made with PowerPoint, and it's about a research paper.
Hey everyone, it's Miss Hannah.
It's pretty boring.
I'm making this video to
Hey everyone. Oh my God, it's two at once. I just wanted to make a quick video. Okay. I know how to make videos. I don't know how to make them play in Google correctly. But this is me talking over a PowerPoint presentation.
To catch all the things that you could do to improve it. So here's the
and students like that. I'm really giving them the same information that they would get from reading the slides, but I make it a little conversational. I can add some information to it, and it makes it a little easier for some students to digest. A lot of students want to have things explained. They want to hear it. They want to move through it with you. And so it's just an opportunity to humanize it. And you see I added like silly little Bitmojis in the beginning, and okay, it's trying to play on all my Rokus in my house.
Hey everyone.
So I just found a way to make it human.
Hi, welcome to our class.
Oh my God. Sorry. So you'll notice if you watch those videos that I left in minor mistakes. So if I stumble over my words, or there are times, you can probably tell by now that I laugh at myself all the time, I left that stuff in there. Again, you want it to be professional and you want it to be clear for students to follow. So if you have a big error, you might want to re-record it. But you're a human person, and sometimes we make mistakes when we're talking, and that's part of the humanizing experience. In some way, I'm present in the video, so they hear my voice, they see my photo, or they see me talking on camera, or even that research paper one. I wanted it to be fairly straightforward and specific to the research paper, so I just put in like a little cartoon version of myself. It's important that the sound is clear, that students can understand what I'm saying, that the visuals are appealing and easy to follow, but that really everything that they see is directly related to instruction. A lot of videos are me responding to student questions. So I have a video on there. I'm not going to go back because it'll autoplay, but it's called What is a Writing Exercise? I have this assignment in my classes, and students at the beginning of the semester tend to get confused about what they're supposed to do and if they're allowed to do certain things. And so after 2 semesters of getting a lot of questions, I just made a video where I explain it, I show some examples, and I answer kind of all those frequently asked questions. And I try to be friendly and approachable and humorous in all the videos. And in every single one, I end by saying, if you have questions, please reach out to me and let me know.
Okay, I think I'm up. So I want to spend some time talking about how you can use videos to sort of help your students pace the instruction. Now, why should we do that? Well, first of all, by dividing your content into chunks at natural breaks, this allows students to really retain more of what they're listening to or watching or reading. So this idea of chunking we mentioned this summer. And, one of the things that's the most difficult, this is something that I personally am still working on, when I think, okay, I need, this topic I need to make a video on. And when I sit down to do it, it may take, 10 or 12 minutes for me to go over that topic. So ideally, I'm still trying to work to simplify or make the chunks of material that I'm making a video out about even smaller. So, we all have those natural places that we know, well, first I'm going to teach about this part of the chapter, and then I'm going to teach about this part. So instead of making one long video about chapter 1, break those into several videos with something in between those videos. So that takes us to, what should we do in between instead of just having video part 1, part 2, part 3? In between those videos, stop and give them an opportunity for, whoops. Here we go. Thank you. So Allegra's just messing with me. So give them an opportunity to practice. So that might be that you simply pause at the end of the video and say, now I want you to try this yourself. Here's a, practice problem, or ask a question. And then in the next video, you could pick up, right, with answering that question, or with showing, your thoughts about that particular question. Or it might be a discussion board that they do, or some research. So one thing this does is, I know for me, when I am addicted to Coursera and edX. I'm one of those students that if you could just pay me to learn, like that would be my favorite job. So one of the things I love about Coursera is that I can just sit down. If I only have 20 minutes, I can do something that takes me 20 minutes and it checks off that I've done it. And if it's a week before I go back to that class, I can pick up right where I left off. So if I have an hour and a half long lecture video and a student comes into my class and they only have 20 minutes, well, they can watch 20 minutes, but somehow they're going to either have to make a note, write down where I left off. It's just not as easy for them to do it in smaller chunks. And one thing I tell my students right off the bat, please don't wait till the last day or two, right, of the week to do all the lessons. So if I can set it up so that it's not overwhelming, like, oh, if I do this, it's going to take me an hour and a half. Instead, oh, okay, I can check this off, check that off, right? We all know we make these to-do lists, and it gives us this wonderful sort of little endorphin lift when we get to mark things off. So let's do it for our students. Okay, also, we know, and we talked about this summer, that chunking helps. We all have a limited amount of working memory, right? And so at some point, that's it. We're full. We're not going to pick up no matter how hard we try. So it allows them to manage that in small pieces. The other thing is it allows students to self-assess. So at that point, give them a short video. Maybe there is a set of notes, like an outline of notes, or a practice quiz, or you just leave them with some objectives like, okay, after this video, you should be able to tell me this, show me this, describe this. It gives them an opportunity to do that. And if they say, wait a minute, I can do these two things, but not this, then it's not overwhelming to go back and rewatch that short video section. All right, Allegra. So coming from a science field, like I hear these things, right, about how long on average a student will watch a video, what's the best time, but I like to see data. So this is actually some data directly from my YouTube channel that shows you, so here's a list of videos, and this happens to be in the order of the number of views that they got in a certain time period, but that's not important. What I want you to see are the two things that I have circled for you. And so my disclaimer is I'm working, right, to make my videos shorter and shorter. But 4 years ago or 5 years ago when I started doing this, I made hour-long videos or 45-minute long videos. So there are still some of those in the channel. Also, I do live review sessions for my students before each major exam, and I record those for students who can't make it. So those are still going to be, 45 minutes to an hour sessions there. And I try to let them know, at 5 minutes, we move to this topic. At 15 minutes, we move to this topic. But the things that I have highlighted there is that the average view time, whether the video, was an hour long or not, when you combine all of those videos, is 7 minutes and 29 seconds. which really supports all of the research out there that shows that you should really keep your, and Austin can correct me, but I believe you should keep your videos to, you know, less than 8 minutes, maybe target around 6 minutes.
Yes.
The other thing, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
If I lie, Austin, you
under
step in
5
there and correct. Okay, awesome. The other thing I want to show you is the longest view time. So the longest the student has ever in this period sat down and watched one of my videos was 14 minutes and 2 seconds. That was only 45% of that video. And I would say the reason students watched that on average that long is because look at the title of the video, Review for Lab Exam 1. I don't know about you, but if I just title something exam review, right, it's bound to get more views than anything else. Because, I mean, I was a student. I understood that if there was an exam review, I was not going to miss it. So all I wanted to point out to you was, no matter how long you make your video, they're really only going to watch for a certain period of time. All right, Allegra. Okay, now this slide and the next one highlight 2 different types of videos. So this is also from YouTube this is showing the audience retention, which basically means once someone starts to watch this video, how long do they actually watch it, right? Percentage wise. Now, I know Allegra, when she first saw this, she was like, wait a minute, 120%, I'm not sure what's going on there. So keep in mind what that means. The reason it can be over 100% is if I'm watching something and I go, wait, pause, I want to back up because I want to see that again. Like I need a little more reinforcement on that. That's why it could make it over 100%. So this is this video is 5 minutes long. And as you can see, even at the end of 5 minutes, still probably about 60% of students watch that entire video. Now, if we can, and the average view was 3 minutes and 37 seconds, which is 72% view. I mean, even if I was lecturing live, I would say probably students every 5 minutes are zoning in and out, and they're probably getting about 3 minutes and 37 seconds. So I'm good with that. Okay, Allegra, would you move to the next one? All right, this example is different. This is a 20 and a half minutes video. This is longer. And you'll notice that the view time was only 6 minutes. So on average, they're only watching 30%. Now notice, it's well under 50%, the majority of the video. Okay, there's some little spikes here and there. So there was a few things they were picking up on, but for the most part, they're either dropping off or they're skipping through the video. So I think some of that is psychologically to say, oh, this is just a 5-minute video, no problem, I can watch this. Oh, this is a 20-minute video, you know, kind of just is a little more overwhelming, and they're less likely to stick with it. Okay, so let's advance. So I'll turn it over.
All right, good, thanks. So another thing that you can do with a video is make connections. And so one thing that's missing a lot of times in an online or an asynchronous course is that narrative arc of a class where we really understand how each item we learn or how each lesson we learn relates to other information. So a good way to use videos is to make those connections and to help students mentally make those connections. So you want to connect the content of your video to previous lessons, to previous courses. So if I'm teaching biology 2, I can connect to concepts they learned in biology 1. Natalie makes the point to make it really compelling. Connect this to an upcoming assignment. This will be on a test, or this will be something that you're going to write in an essay about. Connect to prior existing knowledge, connect to future courses or how they might use that information in their careers, or connect information to current events. That's really how you make information stick in students' minds, is when they can understand and situate it and connect it to other things. So you can use verbal cues. You can have a reminder minute at the beginning of a video, and it doesn't have to be a full minute, where you just kind of remind students what we did last time as a primer for what you're going to do in this video. You can preview the assignment. So before they watch the video, you can have a preview of what's to come. You can include graphics that show how things overlap, and we have an example of that. if you are teaching something like business or economics, you can connect the concepts to a career field by interviewing people who are working in that field or other academic experts, and you can interview folks and help make connections that way. And it's kind of like a podcast style conversation. Or you can use headlines, and we have an example of that as well. So if you want to start a video like a lesson intro, you can just start by saying, last week we discussed X, Y, and Z, and this week we're going to build on it in this way. If you have an informal announcement, so sometimes I put videos in my announcements, and you can discuss recent current events and how they relate to your content. Obviously, if you're teaching political science, that would be a very easy thing to do right now. And a review video where you kind of connect multiple lessons using a narrative structure the way that Natalie does. So here are some examples. This is from an accounting class, and at the beginning of this video, I'm just going to play the start. This professor starts by saying, here's what we did last time and how this is how it relates to what we're going to do. And this is a video she made using PowerPoint. Okay, instead of playing the video, it just advances the slides. Can I not use Google Slides anymore?
Welcome back to chapter 3, which is covering the adjusting process. So before we get started, I want you to kind of think about where we are in the process. When we finished chapter 2, we had done all of the kind of day-to-day journal entries for Smart Touch Learning. And if you remember, Smart Touch Learning opened or started.
That's okay. We don't have to learn more about accounting. So it took her 20, maybe 30 seconds to review what they did last time and help students understand where they are in this particular process. So this is about a poem, and this professor breaks down the poem in multiple videos, again, to chunk the information so students don't have to sit through a super long video. And she starts this by saying, okay, here's what we covered in 1. Remember, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And students can say, oh yeah, okay, I remember that. And it helps them connect what they're about to learn to what they've already learned. And one of our economics professors does a great job of posting videos in her course if something happens in the news that relates to the economics concepts that they've learned about recently. So she's just and the video is her scrolling through a news article and talking about how the very concepts they just learned about in class relate directly to the news article. I don't remember which economic theories, but basically how the economic theories are playing out in real time as the stock market goes up and down because of the coronavirus. So she walks students through the article and she connects the concepts that way. And so there are just lots of different ways to connect concepts using videos, because you can explain and you can relate things and you can give students back that feeling that they're maybe missing from in-person classes. And this is an example from Natalie. And so she did this on her Surface using OneNote and Screencast-O-Matic. Is that right, Natalie?
Yes, that's good.
And maybe it'll play, maybe it won't.
So as we go through and review our Protist Lab, just want to make sure that we start with keeping straight what exactly do we mean by protist, okay? So we know that these are not bacteria, they're not archaea, they are made up of eukaryotic cells, okay? Now if you recall, within the domain, multiple cells have merged together, and so there's going to be.
So she says things to students like, we already know this, and let's remember this, and let's put these things together. And so they end with this graphic that helps them understand how these different concepts relate to each other. Does that say slime molds? Okay.
Yes, it does. And that's me. Okay, so now let's talk about videos with active engagement. So how do we get our students to do more than just sit and watch the video? So one of the things that I think is effective, and I have changed my tune about these outlines. So I've always had an outline in my class that was sort of a skeleton outline, or study guide, whatever you want to call it, that had some information and then some blanks or questions. I used to tell students, please watch the videos, read the chapters, and then see what you can fill in, and what you don't know, go back. Now I think it's actually very effective to give them this outline and say, as you're watching the video, fill it in. It keeps them focused. The other thing that actually engages them is to have a purposeful pause. So in your video, just like you would if you were lecturing live, you might introduce a concept and then pause and ask a question that they have to think about, that really makes them wonder, okay, where are we going from here? Or how does that relate? The other thing that I'm using now, new in the last maybe 6 months or a year, is a just-in-time practice quiz that's embedded. So there are some tools that you can do this with. I use one called Edpuzzle, which is free. It lets you do a certain amount. But you can also do it within the LMS, where you actually create a quiz and the video itself is in the quiz instructions. So as they're watching the video, the questions are there below it, and they can sort of watch a while, answer a question, go back and view. The other thing to do is to poll your students. So just a little checkup. This can be done for a couple of different reasons. One, it lets you know, like, are they getting it, right? The other thing is it gives them an opportunity to self-assess, like, what else do I need to know, or what do I need more practice with? And I'm huge on low stakes practice opportunities. I'm sure, like me, you hear so much if you're in a class that gives objective tests. Students are fearful of objective tests that are worth lots and lots of points. They have a lot of anxiety about that. So I want them to have practice before that test, so that there's no secret about what they should know at this point. And I also want them to have other ways to show that they've mastered the material than just an objective test. So discussion board does that, giving them like an opportunity to just write, or low stakes, like low point value or even no point value quizzes. Okie dokie. So I've already talked a lot about this, but here's an example of my guided notes, or my skeleton notes for one class. As you notice that it's got enough that they can follow what they should know, but there are blanks in there just to sort of keep them focused. It not only provides focus, but it also identifies, like, oh, okay, this is important information. And then after the fact, when they are ready to, study for an exam, I can tell them, well, just print another blank copy, right? You have the one that you filled out, print a blank copy and see if you can fill it out from what you already know. Okie doke. Okay, so just in time practice. So we know, right? We all know, if we've been teaching for a period of time, the specific areas in our class where students are going to struggle. So Allegra had a video specifically about an essay, because she probably knows every time she assigns an essay, there's going to be some fear, and what about this, and I'm not sure how to get started, or what topic should I use, or formatting. So she's made a video specifically about that. I know on certain questions that a higher percentage of students are going to miss those questions. So if I can give them a low stakes quiz, so this is a quiz question, right, within a quiz, and I've asked them a question, but basically I've embedded a video in there that walks them through how to work the question right there. So instead of saying, if you don't remember how to do this, go back to lecture 1 at this point and watch this, I've put this little 2, almost 3-minute video in there right where they can practice it and have a review at that point. The other thing you could do with videos just in time is, I think a lot of times we explain things, but we expect them to practice it. We see the connection, obviously, but they may need a little help on that question, seeing, like, how did what I just learned in the lecture apply to this question? So also, it lowers students' frustration, and it gives them some confidence. So that's, anytime we can do that, that's a win for us and a win for the students. Okie doke. And now I'm going to turn over to Austin.
All right. So I can advance it just by advancing the slide. Let me try this right quick. Okay, never mind. Got it. Did I do that? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about and continue on what Allegra and Natalie were talking about there. And I'm going to come at it from an instructional designer position. But I also taught for many years, and am fascinated by how thought is developed and how an incepted thought goes through the process of cognition. And so we're going to talk about that, which sounds really boring, but what I want to say to you is this. I use that language on purpose because y'all are soaking in it all the time, what you're doing, and that's kind of what Natalie was just talking about there, how you're doing what you're doing and you see the connections, and we tend to forget sometimes, especially when we're teaching, and especially in this pedagogical crisis that we currently find ourselves in, that sometimes we're teaching to an audience of ourselves and we're not teaching to an audience of our students. And I know that sounds dismissive. I don't mean it to at all. I want you to fully consider that I am being totally supportive of faculty, but y'all just don't have the time to do this. So I'm going to talk to you about the instructional design part of it and talk to you how about building a relationship with the instructional designers can help with this. So the questions to consider in looking at what we were just presented with is, can sequencing the content improve the learner's understanding? What strategies are available to help me sequence a unit? Or in this case, we're talking about a video, so I'm going to compress it down to a video, but I want you to think the entirety of your class with the concepts that we're talking about here. And when do I determine the sequence of content, and what are the benefits of using a sequencing scheme? So we're going to kind of go forward with those. Are you advancing them, Allegra? Because I'm seeing something different. Yeah. So this is a concept map, and I have one that I'm building out that has a better view of these because I'm going through these things. And like if you look to the right there at the top right corner, I've got these green rectangles. Those are some online resources, and I'm checking to see the current availability of them. So I have a version of this that I'm making out as a PDF for you to look at, but this is where this all happens. And this is what happens whenever you think a thought, which is odd, but and especially as an instructor when you think a thought. So if you see there in the center, you've got the concept map. So that's your incepted thought. And then it goes to benefits, and then it goes to in-class uses. It goes to organic research, which is an individual use of your knowledge. Further reading, which is that thing we do whenever we go, hey, I just taught this concept, and the other day I saw this video that I thought was really cool that reinforces that concept. And we drop that in behind the video we made in our class. And I want to talk to you about that here in just a second. So all of this is going around a concept map. And so can you go to the next slide, Allegra? So once you've developed the objectives, you are ready to determine the optimum sequence for the instruction is part of the sequencing model. So what I want to talk about that right there for is this. I didn't talk to you about objectives. I know you all know what your objectives are. So, but objectives is where this starts. If I go into Bloom's and I translate it to digital and I say in Bloom's, I'm going to ask the student to describe the stratified squamous epithelial tissue model, which is basically a fancy way of saying skin, for instance, then I need to understand that when I say describe, and I'm now translating that to digital, which we've added since COVID for a lot of you, how do I get the students to describe that? Am I asking them to create a Word document and then type all that out? Am I asking them to draw a picture and take a picture of it on their phone and send it to me? There's a bunch of different ways to do that, which doesn't sound like it relates to video content, but it does, because I have to think about the direct outcome of what the video is that I'm creating, or any content that I'm creating. And video should have an outcome. And so determining the appropriate sequence for presenting the content related to each objective is part of that model. Can you go to the next slide for me? So is sequencing the same as chunking? Yes, it is. And chunking actually has psychology behind it. If you're not familiar with this, it is all about the cognitive load model. And this is all based on a theory from a long time ago in the 1950s by George Williams. I want to make sure, yeah, George Miller, excuse me, George Miller. Williams is another one. Miller came up with this concept of chunking. And if you read about Miller, there's a lot of misinformation out there. One of the first things you can put in that you'll probably hear about Miller is chunking in relation to your phone number, for instance. So I want to talk about that because it's a myth, but like most myths, it sounds good and it sounds like a good way to remember this. So when you think of your phone number, I'm going to use my childhood one here. So if you call this isn't my number. My childhood phone number was 214-339-8639. And there's a rhythm to the way I'm saying that. 214-339-8639. And so is chunking in its essence. That's how we think of phone numbers. And that's a chunking element. And you'll read out there that Miller was the reason that our phone numbers were done this way. That's not true. So if you see that, that's not true. It is, however, the reason that your social security number is the way it is. The reason you have hyphens in the middle of your social security number is because of the chunking concept from Miller. And you'll also read, and there's a lot of argument about this, that 7 is the magic number when it comes to Miller. And this is where there's a lot of discussion and debate. And this is where I go to the side of, no, that's not true. He says in his research that 7 is the number of things we can remember in our cognitive load, that we can remember 7 things and hold them in our memory. I would disagree with that passionately. And so I would say that that's not true, and that we should probably shoot for 5, and then I would quit using anything after 5. So let's talk about that for a second. What does that look like in a video? That looks like this. Can you go to the next slide for me? I'm sorry. Is there? I lost my slides here. Prioritize the information. It should be prioritize the information, I think. Yeah, there we go. And so there's content hierarchy when you're building something. And Allegra was talking about this earlier. So for instance, when she showed Jay Simpson's videos, Jay Simpson is recalling back to the lesson before. That's a chunk of information you're asking the students now to put in their head. Okay, so that counts as a chunk. And if you're asking them to remember 3 things, there are 3 things right there that you're asking them right off the bat to remember. But our memory does this: slow and fast thinking. Slow thinking is storing that information from before, so we start to recall it with the fast part of our memory, which is called memory 1. And memory 1 is going to go, okay, I do remember that. And then it's going to forget all of it as far as a big picture, and it's going to say to itself, in your brain, you're going to say, I'm about to get some new information that's tied to that information. That becomes that one thought. It's not all 3 things or 5 things that she's recalling you to remember. It becomes a one thought of, I got to remember that stuff from before. Now I'm going to get new information. And then your fast memory is listening to that new information, not your slow memory, which is where we store deep thinking ideas and where we have concepts get buried in. Introducing them is fast. And then when we're done and we do a 5-minute video like what Natalie was talking about there, where she's doing low stakes priority. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. Low stakes priority quizzes, surveys, things like that. If you tell them in advance in the quiz or before they watch the video in a short sentence, you're about to watch a video, then there will be an ungraded quiz of 5 questions after the video. They don't stress about that, and that doesn't go into fast memory. That goes into slow memory, because at the end they'll go, oh yeah, I got a quiz now. And they don't lose that fast thinking skill, which is where new information is coming in and being processed. That is cognitive load theory, and that is content hierarchy, and that is part of that content or concept mapping sequence that we saw earlier. Now, that sounds like a lot, but basically it's just this. It is chunking, but that's the psychology behind chunking. It's not just smaller is better. There's actually, my dog's growling, sorry. There's actually theory and psychological development behind that, and that's why it is better to have your video shorter. And I saw the questions or some things I want to say in the questions. So we go to the next slide, which is designed for learners' working memory. That's their working memory. The long-term memory is what they're going to remember after they take your class. Long-term memory is what you want to get them on the test about. When you're grading them, think about their long-term memory. But like anything, whenever Allegra was showing Jay Simpson's video from earlier, she's establishing a long-term priority memory for them, because she's saying, remember in our last video we did this, that concept is tied to this, and she's reintroducing that language in that new video, and she's keeping consistent with that. And I want to say something about her for a second, because I hear a lot, I work a lot with faculty in video. Jay started right after COVID going online with her videos, and I showed her how to use PowerPoint to make her videos and things like that. And Jay made about 45 videos before she realized that her microphone wasn't functioning correctly. Her videos at that point were 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes a piece. So she had made a little over 40, I know. And they weren't working. And so she had to go back through and remake those videos, which was a great opportunity for me to be able to stop her and say, hey, let's break these into smaller chunks and let's do this thing, which she was very much welcome to, glad to do. But she did. She went back and remade those videos. And that was her opportunity to learn that new way of developing video content. She has made now a little over 300 videos since then, since the summer. She really went knee deep into the hoopla for it. And so it is very important to understand that. And so establishing your working memory and your content hierarchy has to be part of when you're deciding to make a video. You're welcome in a video, whether it's, hey, welcome back, and then a short synopsis of what you gave them before, or hey, welcome to this new concept. That's a chunk of information. Just like whenever we meet somebody, we meet and we have that process where we tell them our name, they tell us their name, then we go into small talk, then we go into deeper conversation to find out more about each other, and then we decide whether we like each other or not. That's content chunking, and that's us deciding and having a relationship through information with each other. And then can we go to the next one, think video to video? So this is thinking video to video. It is hyper important that you look at the videos and think about how I can break them. And it is most important that you look for natural breaks for you. And concept mapping will help you do that, because if you look at a concept and you can sum that up in an elevator pitch, meaning literally you're going 5 floors up with somebody and you were trying to sell them on an idea. If you can type from the time you could push a button to the time the elevator doors ding and open on the 5th floor, get that concept out, that's a chunk of information. That's content chunking. That's concept mapping. If you are out of the elevator and still talking to that person, you have not succinctly got something that should be in one video. If it's past that timeline, that's a good model to keep it under 5 minutes. I realize that an elevator pitch is not 5 minutes. From the ground floor to the 5th floor is not 5 minutes. But you want to start with what you can do from the ground floor to the 5th floor. And that's where you want a concept map from. And that can be 5 minutes or under of content. You can evolve the 5 minutes on that concept and give them more details about it. But that one concept from the 1st floor to the 5th floor, and don't go to the 6th or the 10th, go to the 5th. That should be where you start mapping your content from. And so the next thing I wanted to say was we made this hit list, and I was asked to come up with this. If you'll go to the next slide. These are the 4 things that I want to say to you. Your face on everything is not important. What I mean there is simply this, and this is in no way a slight to anybody. They don't want to see your face. And I was just in a meeting the other day with somebody from a district who was presenting how to use Microsoft Teams, and that person said that there's a study out there that says 85% of the people want to see who's talking to them. They don't. That's not true. That's not accurate information. I finally did find the report that she was talking about, and that's from Microsoft. It's an internal document, and it reinforces modeling of live meetings. If we're having a meeting and you can talk back and forth to me and we can have an exchange of ideas, that's where you want to see their faces, and we want to see each other. When I'm presenting to you, you don't want to see my face. You need to see the information and represented here in this short text. We often will call a mnemonic device. This is, getting you to think of this way. Your face on everything is a way for me to get you to think about not putting your face on everything. Using videos without alignment is a way to talk about using concept mapping to get there. So look at when you concept map the first video, then put that video in the middle of that concept map and say, where is the next thought from this video? What's the next video after this? And that starts the dominoes falling of your concept mapping from idea to idea in your course. Reusing ineffective content allows opportunities for students to give feedback, or allow opportunities for students to give feedback. Don't ever take feedback from your students as a slam. I will tell you that Natalie just showed you that timeline, that analysis of her video, and I'm not making this up, and I'm not going to call somebody out, but I have a faculty member at an institution that I work with, and I won't say whether it's here or not, but they sent me 3-hour and 30-minute videos that they made in PowerPoint we converted them to videos. 3 hours and 30 minutes was their average time. And that was every week they wanted their students to watch a 3-hour and 30-minute video. And that started this semester and is continued. Not one student has watched that video, one of those videos all the way through. Not one student has made it past 17 minutes into those videos. The response from the faculty member is they come to when they were coming face to face, they had to do 3 hours a week with me. There's no reason they can't watch these videos. You're right. There's no reason they can't watch them. But the equivalent would be watching the movie Titanic. I would say, I want you to watch the movie Titanic once a week during this semester, and I'm going to ask you questions about it. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to take that class. James Cameron and Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio would not take that class, and they're in it. So you have to think about those things when you're making your videos. And there is a great way to use PowerPoint, and I will say this to everybody in this meeting. I wholeheartedly think that PowerPoint is a great way to make videos, not just because of the mechanisms in it that can convert to that, but the way you can edit your content and use concept mapping theory in using that. And so if you ever want to have a session where we're doing that, I would be happy to have that with you, because here's the other thing, because I saw in the questions initially was, do you recommend having a YouTube channel? Which leads me to this. We are leaving YouTube here in the next year, and we will have our own video platforming network, which is the equivalent of an educational version of YouTube. I would say if you have a YouTube channel now and you're using it and you don't have any problems with students, having your own YouTube channel is fine. I do not recommend it, and I'm not saying that because I'm speaking on behalf of the district. There are some legalities with that could cause you a headache if you're ever challenged by a student. And I would say that is a risk that you're taking. And if you want to have a deeper discussion about that, I would be happy to. But that is a risk. There is a risk involved. That being said, we are going to have a video platforming network that is secure, that has a lot of those features that Natalie was talking about embedded in them, like embedding questions and things like that. So the important thing right now is to learn very good multimedia video creation strategies, because whatever you build, you will be able to import right into that new video platforming network that we have. So all the faculty videos that Allegra was showing you there before, I've kept versions of those on a hard drive so that whenever this is done, I can literally do a video dump for those faculty members and get their content out immediately. And I'm happy to help anybody do that individually. And that brings me to the end of my spiel, and thank y'all for y'all's time.
So I want to connect what Austin said with what I said in the beginning, because I said in the beginning to humanize things that I include myself and my presence in every video. So in videos about the research paper, for instance, I had a little cartoon version of myself at the beginning and a picture of me at the end reminding students they could ask me questions. But when I'm talking about the research paper, my students need to focus on the content. And if you have a little talking head in the bottom corner of the PowerPoint video, I'm sure there are a couple students who love to watch you talk, but it is distracting and it splits their focus between the content and you. So you want to find a balance between being present and humanizing videos and letting students see your face and letting students connect with you as a human, and making sure that your instructional videos are focused on instructional content. So a lot of my videos, they start with me talking directly to the camera for about 10 seconds. And then I switch to screencasting and show students the information on the screen. And then at the end, I come back and they see me again. So that's how I balance humanizing the video with not overwhelming students' visual acuity and also their ability to pay attention to what's happening. So those two things aren't conflicting advice. You just have to find a way to make both of those things work in the videos that you make. And if you are making a lot of videos, then your students will look forward to seeing you for a couple of seconds on each video. So it's a great strategy. We have gotten a few questions and I'm gonna maybe try and go through them, but if you have questions, we have 10 minutes left. So you can come off mute if you want to ask a question, or you can put it into the chat, either one. MP4 is the best video for formatting video. Sorry, yes, MP4 is the best format for video. You can upload MP4s to YouTube. When we switch to the new LMS and video platform, you'll be able to upload all of the MP4s there. It's a good balance of quality and file size. TCC does have licenses for Camtasia and Snagit. You need to put in a help desk ticket and you need to explain why you want a license. They probably won't give you both. If all you want to do is make a screencast video where you can show your face or the screen or alternate between the two, then you just need screencast, or then all you need is Snagit. You don't need Camtasia. Camtasia is way more involved and has a lot of video editing if you want to splice things together and add tracks on top of other tracks. But if you just want to make a simple video, screencast or back and forth, then just ask for a license to Snagit. I don't know how many of those we have, but we do have those licenses. You do not need to record a PowerPoint video in 1080p, although I'm sure you can, but the file size will be bigger. And I don't know, are you asking me trick questions, Dave? You know the answer to that better than I do.
1080 is forward thinking because in 5 years, everything's going to want to be 1080. But if you're making content that you're thinking 5 years in the future is going to be relevant, then I would say that this is that thing that comes up from time to time when faculty are like, they're just going to record us and fire us. They're not. If I was in a meeting that they said that, I promise you I would tell you. And I will tell you the same thing I tell everybody all the time. If I'm watching a video and the faculty member's face is on there and they have the Rachel hairdo and they're talking about gas being $1.13 a gallon, and I'm in an economics course, I'm going to go, man, this teacher is not on the par with what the current information is.
That is true. Yeah, you will. But I mean, A, you're going to date your video, but B, you want to remake videos every now and then because you get better at making videos. So yeah. Just like your graduate thesis that you don't want to go back and read because you cringe because your writing and your skills have gotten so much better. Same thing. I do not want to go back and watch a video I made even 2 years ago because I'm so much better at making videos. I'm so much better at making eye contact or reading the caption, whatever. So if you get better, you want to make better videos. So don't hold on to things, and definitely use this opportunity when we move into a new LMS to make some new things. And I agree, the Rachel haircut transcends time and style, and it was ugly from the very beginning, if you ask me. But
I do want to say that what Allegra said whenever she came on initially back on and said, putting yourself at the beginning of the video, putting yourself at the end of the video so that you humanize it. My name is Austin Haynes, and I wholeheartedly endorse this message. That's very true. What I'm talking about is you don't need to flip back and forth between your face in the middle of a presentation. You definitely do not want to put yourself down in that little rectangle picture in the corner. Those are called distractors. They just take the students out of it. It's why we want to go to a video platforming network that's educationally based, because right now, unfortunately, we're on YouTube. And this is the example I always use. If you put your educational video on YouTube and I don't get a commercial at the beginning of it, but I look up and the new Spider-Man trailer has come out, you lost me. I'm going to watch the new Spider-Man trailer. I might come back. And so I want to minimize the distractors so that they're focused on your content. So that's where we're headed. Oh, it was rent control is the answer. Yeah, that is the answer. How did they afford to live in Manhattan when Chandler is the only one with a job? Rent control. Matter of fact, that comes back up, David, at the last episode. But that's a great question. And I'm not even a huge Friends person, and I knew that. I was Seinfeld.
Ew.
Seinfeld's awesome.
Ugh.
Ugh. You're wrong.
You're wrong.
Okay, I do have a question, a real one.
Okay.
About the 1080 or 720, when I do my Camtasia recordings, it always asks me to preset that, as why I was asking, and I wasn't sure which one I should preset it as.
It's asking you to preset because it's going to use a lot more memory whenever you go to 1080. So it's asking you beforehand because it can also bog down your hard drive in the recording.
Oh man.
So.
I did a 1080 video in Camtasia. It was about 7 minutes long. And then when I tried to edit it, and I was mostly editing it for sound, but I mean, my computer slowed so far down. But yeah, videos longer than 5 minutes in 1080 in Camtasia will basically break your computer if you're using a normal TCC laptop or something.
Software uses what it's called the MacGuffin theory, like you use in a movie. Anything it asks you or shows you in advance of the use of it, or at the beginning of a film, is information that you're going to have to use to get to the end of the process. And so in that case, it's asking you that because it's telling you in advance, hey, your computer, we've ran a self-check on it through the software, and this could slow your computer down big time.
It's really another reason I would recommend using Snagit over Camtasia, unless you really want to get into complex movie making or video editing. You'd probably just need Snagit. It's a much easier interface, and you can edit things out. So if your dog starts barking in the middle and you want to edit a part out, you can do that in Snagit, and you can cut off the beginning and the end. But you don't have extensive video editing. But most of the videos I make, even though I have Camtasia, I'm making in Snagit just because Camtasia slows this computer down. Natalie posted a link in the chat to the attendance form. If you fill that out, we will send it to CTL and get your attendance recorded if you registered in advance. And that way you can get credit for this webinar. We do have a couple more webinars left this semester, and I will put the dates up on the screen. If you have questions, you got Rachel there. If you have questions for us, things that we mentioned today that you want to follow up on, or if you're working on a video and in a few weeks you have a question that you didn't think of today, you're welcome to reach out to us anytime. We are really happy to help folks make the transition to using videos and teaching online. On November 9th, we have a webinar. Dave is presenting on accessibility and ADA. So that would involve things like captions and making sure that your files are accessible to all students. And then on November 12th, Austin is presenting with one of our faculty members on preparing for next semester. And now that we know that next semester will also primarily be online, that will be a great time to just go through a checklist and make sure that your classes and you are ready to be successful in the spring. If you have any last questions, you're welcome to ask. Otherwise, thank you for being here. Make sure you fill out the attendance form and let us know if we can help.